They put my name on a folding chair by the trash cans, and my sister glided over in white and whispered, "Guess you don't count." Through the glass, the DJ was already counting down the first dance. The hallway smelled like lilies and bleach. My mother adjusted her pearls. My father looked away. If this hits close, like and subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. I read the comments, and sometimes they're the only proof someone isn't crazy. The lakeside resort looked like a magazine. Orchids floating in bowls, chandeliers throwing gold on every table except mine. The coordinator's iPad showed H2. Hallway seating next to the service door. I managed a smile, set my silver-wrapped gift on the tiny table, and sat in the draft like I belonged there. Mom's last text buzzed in my head. "Please, Amber, no drama today." It's Laya's day, and it landed like a rule more than a request. That was always my part. Quiet, easy, the girl who didn't need space. I thought about the brown journal I once found on her vanity. Laya's first day of school, Laya's favorite meal, Laya's college letter, not one page with my name. And I felt something steady click into place. Laya came back to the doorway, veil trailing like smoke, reflection doubled in the glass. "Looks like they finally figured out where you belong," she said, soft enough to sound sweet. I kept my voice low. "There's always been room for both of us. You're the one who keeps shrinking it." Her smile twitched. "Not everything's about you. Try to act happy for once." Behind her, the photographer called, "Bride, back in the shot." She didn't move. She wanted a scene. Tears. Begging. I gave her none of it. I stood, smoothed my wine-colored dress, and picked up the little silver box I'd wrapped last night. The ribbon felt tight under my thumb. I looked at the ballroom, at the glow, the laughter, the picture she'd built, and chose silence. No speech, no fight. I walked to the gift table, set my box carefully among the others, and turned toward the Vermont air. The door closed behind me with a soft push, the lake throwing back their light like a mirror I didn't need anymore. 5 minutes later, the chandeliers went quiet, and a scream split the room. 3 weeks earlier, over a quiet lunch in Boston, one of Laya's old co-workers showed me her phone and said, "I shouldn't, but you need to see this." The thread was Laya's, dates, names, and the line that lodged like a splinter. "Cry a little and he buys anything I want." I didn't confront anyone. I printed the screenshots twice. I wrote a short note in my own hand. "Read the dates, then decide," and tucked it with a simple crystal frame inside a silver box. This morning at 10:22 a.m., Mom sent "No drama today." I sent back a thumbs up and nothing more. I didn't know then that at 11:06 a.m., a stylist had forwarded the same screenshots to Victoria, Noah's mother, with a single question: "Is this the bride?" At 7:56 p.m., standing at the gift table, I slid my box onto the pile, to Laya and Noah, took a photo of the tag and clock behind the bar, and walked for the door. The first dance cue hit at 8 o'clock on the dot. The glass room pulsed like a snow globe, all gold and soft. Outside, the lake air cleared my head. I didn't hope for a scene. I hoped for daylight. Inside, a cousin at the gifts said, "Let them open one." Hands reached, tissue paper rasped, a lid lifted. Then the music thinned, like someone had turned trust down to half. Inside, a cousin at the gift table chirped, "Open one," and hands pushed my silver box forward. Tissue brushed the mic on the DJ stand. The lid came off, crystal glinted. A folded note slid free. "What's this?" Laya laughed, but her fingers shook. Victoria crossed the room like a judge who already knew the verdict. "Read the dates," she said, lifting her phone. "These came to me at 11:06 a.m. From your stylist." Noah took the pages, scanned the blue bubbles, and the room's noise thinned to a thread. "He's so easy to handle," he read, voice flat. Flip. "Sign the prenup first, then ask for the car." Flip. "Mom and Dad in the guest house by spring." Flip. "The house will be mine by Christmas." The violinist missed a note. Laya grabbed at the papers. "Someone faked those, Amber." Victoria didn't raise her voice. "Blame the words, not your sister." Phones lifted around the table. The DJ slid the volume down. Noah turned the last page, jaw set, and reached inside his jacket. He didn't pull a handkerchief. He pulled an annulment. At 8:05 p.m., Noah set a single folded document on the gift table and said, "Calm enough to scare people. I had doubts. My lawyer drafted this yesterday." Laya laughed too loud. "You can't be serious." The violin died mid-note. The DJ slid the fader down. Victoria kept her eyes on Laya, not blinking. "Read the dates," she said again. Laya grabbed for the pages. Noah held them tight. "It's real," he said, voice shaking now. "The prenup joke. The house by Christmas. Moving your parents into my guest room. All of it." Laya spun toward the room. "She planted this. Amber did. She's always been jealous." Victoria's tone didn't rise. "Your stylist sent me the thread at 11:06 a.m. Your coworker confirmed it at 11:14. The same screenshots are in that box. This didn't come from Amber. It came from your phone." The photographer froze. Phones lifted like a tide. My mother clutched her pearls. My father stared at the floor. Laya's hand shook. The crystal frame slipped and shattered on the parquet. One bright crack that made everyone flinch. "You'll regret this," she hissed at Noah, mascara carving two black tracks. He set the pen next to the petition without touching her. "I'm not humiliating you," he said. "You did that yourself." He looked past her to my parents. "And if you knew, shame on you." Silence spread to the corners. Dad finally spoke, voice dry. "You should apologize to your sister." Mom shot him a warning look. He didn't take it back. Laya barked a laugh that had no air in it. "Apologize to her? She isn't even family." Dad's jaw tightened. "That's where you're wrong." The room didn't clap. It didn't gasp. It just watched the picture crack. Outside, the lake air hit like clean glass. I stood by my car with the engine idling, watching the chandeliers blur in the windows. At 8:05 p.m., the music thinned to nothing, and a scream knifed through the night, followed by the dull scrape of a chair tipping. Sound travels over water. It carried all the way to the lot. I didn't run back. I leaned on the roof and let the cold steady me. 5 minutes later, guests spilled onto the gravel, half-whispers dragging behind them. Texts. Annulment. "Did you see his face?" And someone said my name like it finally fit. I slid into the driver's seat, hands warm on the wheel, and felt that strange quiet that isn't shock, it's relief. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt exact. I'd put one silver box where it belonged and left the rest to daylight. As I turned the key, I looked once at the glow of the ballroom, at silhouettes moving behind glass, and thought, let the truth finish what it started. The headlights washed the driveway. Vermont fell away in the rear view, and I drove toward Boston without checking a single notification. Boston's skyline slid in around 1:40 a.m., and by 1:52 I was in my apartment with the dress draped over a chair like armor I hadn't known I wore. My phone buzzed nonstop in the cup holder. 16 missed calls from Mom, 3 from Dad, 1 unknown, and a text popped at 2:01. "Please answer, Amber." We didn't know. She always said that when things finally broke. But she'd known at 10:22 a.m. when she wrote no drama. She'd known the night I found the brown journal with only Laya's life inside it. I set the phone face down and opened my laptop instead. A map of the Maine coast blinked. Rockport, Camden, little blue dots, peace in pixels. I booked a week by the water for the first Sunday I could get, screenshot the confirmation at 2:07, and felt something unclench that had been knotted for years. The city was quiet in that hour when trucks hum and streetlights flicker. Rain tapped the balcony rail. I stepped outside and breathed in air that didn't ask me to be smaller. They could keep their explanations and group threads and versions of the truth. I had mine, a hallway chair by the trash cans, a silver box on a table, a room going silent at 8:05, a lake carrying one scream into the dark, and a drive home without looking back. Silence used to mean invisible. Tonight, it meant I don't owe anyone a performance. I locked the door, set the gift receipt and the photo of the tag into a folder marked Keep. and slept with the window cracked, the scent of wet pavement replacing lilies and bleach. A week later, I was in a small rental on the Maine coast, windows open to salt and gulls, when the aftermath started landing in neat little lines. At 8:47 a.m., Victoria emailed, "Filed, petition for annulment," with the case number and a scanned signature. At 9:12, she forwarded the stylist's original email from the wedding morning. Subject, "Is this the bride?" and added, "For your records." At 11:03, Dad texted a photo of the seating chart from the coordinator's iPad, my name next to H2 hallway, and wrote, "I'm sorry." I should have said something. I stared at the image for a long time and typed back, "Thank you. Start by seeing me." Mom sent her usual two-step, "We didn't know." Then, 5 minutes later, "Are you happy now?" And I muted the thread. Laya posted a black square on Instagram with, "Taking time offline," and turned comments off. A bridesmaid took it down an hour later. I didn't gloat. I made coffee, walked to the breakwater, and bought a blank notebook at the harbor shop. On the first page, I wrote a date and a single line. I count. That afternoon, Dad called from the car and said he'd like to meet when I'm back. No excuses this time. And I told him we could try coffee in a public place. Boundaries aren't walls, they're doors you learn to lock and unlock on purpose. At sunset, I sat on the rocks and watched the water turn copper. My phone lay face down beside me, quiet for once. I thought about lilies and bleach and a folding chair by a service door, about a silver box with a simple note, about a room going quiet at 8:05 and a lake carrying one clean scream across the dark. They had wanted me small enough to fit in the hallway. I left instead. That was the whole move. I didn't beg for a seat at their table. I set my own and wrote my name at the center. When the wind picked up, I closed the notebook and headed back along the stones, steady, unhurried, the tide working its own slow correction behind me. On the first page, I wrote a date and a single line. I count. That afternoon, Dad called from the car and said he'd like to meet when I'm back. No excuses this time. And I told him we could try coffee in a public place. Boundaries aren't walls, they're doors you learn to lock and unlock on purpose. At sunset, I sat on the rocks and watched the water turn copper. My phone lay face down beside me, quiet for once. I thought about lilies and bleach and a folding chair by a service door, about a silver box with a simple note, about a room going quiet at 8:05 and a lake carrying one clean scream across the dark. They had wanted me small enough to fit in the hallway. I left instead. That was the whole move. I didn't beg for a seat at their table. I set my own and wrote my name at the center. When the wind picked up, I closed the notebook and headed back along the stones, steady, unhurried, the tide working its own slow correction behind me. 2 Saturdays later, I met Dad at a corner table in a busy cafe at 10:02 a.m. He'd already ordered my coffee the way I take it, black with 1 sugar, which felt like a small overdue fact. He didn't try speeches. He slid an envelope across the table. Inside were 4 photos. Me with a paper crown at 6, me at a middle school science fair, me in a thrift store dress at prom, me on a campus lawn with a backpack bigger than my torso. "I should have made a book," he said, eyes wet. I didn't. This is what I kept. I let the pictures sit between us and set my terms. No more no drama texts, no events unless my name is on the chart inside the room, no triangulating through Mom, and any apology must be direct, not a family thread. He nodded. "I hear you." My phone buzzed at 10:19 with a new message from Laya. "You ruined my wedding. Hope you're happy." I typed 2 words and hit send. "I'm free." Then I blocked the number. By 6:15 that evening, Victoria sent one last update, an annulment hearing date and a line I didn't expect. "If you ever need a seat at a table, you have one with us." I stared at it a long minute, then saved it to the same folder as the photo of the tag and the seating chart. On Sunday night, back in Boston, I put the wine-colored dress in a garment bag and slid the blank notebook onto my desk. I wrote a date in 1 sentence. I count, even when no one else is counting. I stood on the balcony until the streetlights hummed on and the river clicked into its dark, steady rhythm. At my sister's wedding, I left a chair marked H-2 and a silver box on a pile and walked into the cold, The room went quiet without me. I didn't win with a scene. I won with a boundary. And that's the part I'm keeping.